Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and I've got special guest Yonas over here. How you doing, Yonas?
I'm good. How's your day been?
It's been a long one. It's a miserable day here in Japan. Oh, weather-wise, it is cold. It is rainy. You're from the desert. You don't even know if you know what's going on out there.
I don't know what's happening in the sky.
You got it. I had to tell you. We're jet lagged. We're still in Japan, obviously, right? Like, but we got a bunch of cool news for the One Piece Day. Not One Piece Day, One Piece regional finals, world finals. And honestly, we just want to go over it, right? So obviously we're exhausted, but we want to go over this throughout it. It just dropped, so we're just, we have a long ride back from the venue to where our hotel is, so we're able to think about it a little bit. So it's a little bit off the cuff, but additionally, there might be things between now and then this video coming up when we're sleeping that you guys will think of more. But there's a lot of great news, and I think it's exciting. But Yonas, how are you doing, sincerely?
I've been kind of staring into the sky for the past hour, basically trying to figure out what things will happen because this ban list has been super exciting, very unexpected.
It's like the meme from Narcos, right? Where you're just like,
I'm just Pablo Escobar, just like sitting in random spots, staring into the sky, contemplating life.
Yeah, just on the ride, you're just contemplative for it. But the main two things, we got a restriction list announced. And I believe April 1st worldwide for everyone. So that's exciting. So it's going to affect us. And it's going to be a meta that we get that Japan never had. It's the largest ban list with 4 cards, right? Restriction list?
Yeah, technically it's tied for the weird NA ban list where there was Radical Beam, Nami.
Yeah, so whenever there's a weird restriction list, there's going to be 4 cards. I think that's the standard. And then we also have some new rotation news, right?
That is exciting.
I think that was also rotation's always been something that I've been a fan of. I played Hearthstone for a long time, and that game introduced rotation, which I thought was good for it.
I played Magic my entire life.
Yes, of course.
Rotating formats has been my bread and butter. So.
Yeah, so this has been pretty unprecedented for Bandai card games. They've always kind of had like set rotation stuff for it. But I'm excited for that. But let's get to the meat and potatoes first. These 4 cards on the screen right now are going to be restricted to 0 copies at the end of the month. And we're going to start off. We've got Jinbei. I think if I'm allowed to flex a little bit, my final guess, and Diego can back me up with it, was something from Dofi. I was going to say either Teach. I think we both said Teach was maybe a more likely hit.
I like Teach more personally.
Yeah. But Jinbei was my backup. I said Moria and Ice Age outright, and then I said Gum Gum Giant and Full OLED from the Sage from. So I got like
batting 600.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. But Jinbei. For obviously hitting for Doflamingo, everyone kind of knew that this deck was going to get hit in some capacity, right? Some people were arguing with the leader, if it's Jinbei, if it's like once the Law of Reprint got shown, right? Everyone's like, okay, that card's not getting hit likely, right? What's your thoughts on the Jinbei hit?
I don't mind it personally. Jinbei was the reason why Dofi had such explosive draws when you went Jinbei Weevil, or even something as simple as just like Jinbei Boa plus a body on your 6th on turn. It really made decks that could only remove like 1 character a turn or just 1 character a turn basically dysfunctional. So kind of stopping that early nonsensical start is really, really important. The fact that Law hasn't been removed the fact that Teach or Law haven't been removed, that means that the Law shenanigans, I'm not sure how familiar you are with just Law, bounce Law, play Law.
I've spent hours of my life watching that happen, yes. As most of you guys probably have as well.
Yeah. So if Dofi still becomes a prevalent deck, even despite this ban, I imagine that Law loop shenanigans will be a very core part of it. But Jinbei stops Dofi from swarming in the early game, which I think was the most important part about that deck. Like prevalence.
Yeah, and I think like honestly it hits Boa more than anything because Boa kind of needed Jinbei plus something to get like value to start going for it. So that's unfortunate. And this is maybe a bit of a side tangent too, but you've been playing a lot of the OP10 meta here in Japan, right? You've probably played over 50 games in the last 2 days.
I've played games? A lot for the past 3 weeks, to be honest.
Sure.
I picked up the green-purple deck in the last 3 days.
Okay, gotcha. And you went 16-4 in competitive events.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah. So these cards are not seen in the Japanese meta from the games you've been playing, more or less, right?
Yeah,
by
these
and
cards
large,
I played against this weekend.
Yeah, which is really interesting. So I think it's like this seems like it's more tailored for us in the English meta, I think specifically, because these are all cards that in OP10 these are all cards that were used with different degrees for it. So I did find that very interesting as well. So Moria, this card's been probably the most requested banned card since the inception of a restriction list, outside of like what Newgate and stuff.
Yeah, but pre OP06.
Like, yeah. I've lasted a whole year, and as you guys have, this card's been out a year. I think on average every day I've seen a comment or someone tell me that this card needs to get banned in some capacity.
Was this also you manifesting this ban list? Just like, I want Moria gone.
Yeah, I just took my sweet time for a full year for it. So at the end of the day, my argument, I think, that broke this leader was, in conjunction with Rebecca, was unhealthy. I was okay with a myriad of solutions of either restricting this to through the bark leaders, to making it so there's like a choice restrict, which they do for Digimon, where you can't play Moria and Rebecca in the same leader. Something around that capacity for it. I think in the current way that it is a little bit tough, and this is going to really hurt Rob Lucci and BY Luffy, right? Yeah. I unironically, and you guys can tell me I'm coping, I think BY Luffy can still exist in some capacity in this meta, specifically because you weren't playing, you couldn't play more against Blackbeard anyways, so like you can free up some space for maybe some Ace or something, but obviously this is probably one of the more impactful hits across the board for this game.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss him. I played him in a lot of tournaments. But wow, was he broken? I think most people. I think this is a net positive for most people. And we haven't said this either, right? Like we're going into another format. I think both of us kind of say we wish something more tangential from Blackbeard was hit, right? Because it was. Not by a lot, but it was one of the strongest decks in OP10 by a bit of a margin, and it lost a full power Doflamingo, which was its worst matchup, I think, by a large part. I think Dofi can probably still exist without Jinbei. It's just probably a little bit more in line with what the meta looks like. And then additionally, it just didn't lose anything, right? And then like BY, I don't think it was a bad matchup for it, but we've got, I'm going to skip order here. Kingdom Come was like one of the ways, our Rygo was one of the ways that Yellow had access to get rid of 10-drop Teach, right? And now that's just kind of gone, right? Like Anel was already having a pretty tough time into, in most of the other decks, into Teach already, and so to have the only cards that really answer the big top end, this was the hit I think both of us were very surprised to see at the end. I don't know why they did my boy dirty like this. I think it was more so when you ban like Maluchi as a deck, you might be concerned of a deck like Anel being too prevalent. And Rygo or Kingdom Come was like the main way for yellow decks to beat up on the like top end heavy green decks like Bonnie or red decks like Shanks. So this might be just a safety valve, just to make sure that yellow doesn't become too popular. But like, come on, like yellow hasn't been close to the best deck since like OP03 with Katakuri.
I think they have this quota where they have to ban a Sky Island card once a year. They banned Reject last year, Kingdom Come this year, right? So they have to just they have to keep going. So we'll see if Blaze Slice, I guess, makes that's Wano. I was thinking more like the extra stuff of an event card that's yellow, that's Sky Island.
We might ban Braum. Blackbeard even better.
Okay, yeah, that's right. The only stage destruction for Blackbeard. So instead of getting rid of the stage, we'll get rid of the card that can get rid of the stage.
There we go.
And then lastly, Ice Age. Half the restriction list almost is just black cards that reduce cost, right? We've got Innis Lobby,
Great
Eruption, and now Ice Age is joining this. I think I was pretty happy with this hit. Personally, I feel like it was kind of a get out of jail free card for Rob Lucci sometimes. It invalidated some complete archetypes, because if my entire thing is to play a 10 cost and you can get rid of it and while building a board, it feels really, really bad. So
I do think that the OP06 core of Ice Age, Moria, Rebecca, and Lucci has just been too good for too long. It's been kind of absurd. Lucci dominated this most recent event, the World's Finals as well. So I just don't think you want this to be the most popular deck for the most part. And I don't think you want this core to exist 6+ sets into the future. So I think that's perfectly fine. I do think that reduction was inherently too good, especially when you create cheap KO effects like they did in OP05. So I'm glad all this stuff's gone, but I'm not entirely sure what the future of black looks like. Sans teach.
Yeah, and it's going to be really interesting, and I agree that this might segue into like rotation in a second too, but it's something that it's very easy to under adjust or over adjust, right? Like immediately, like to find the sweet spot of where, like if Ice Age instead said like -4, there's a lot of potential for the card to just not get hit, right? Or just the one, since it's so step size based, if Ice Age is like too much at -5, then we could see a card printed in the future that's Ice Age that's just -4, right? And that kind of thing. So last thing before I think we talk into the rotation stuff, is there anything that we kind of mentioned it. Anything else that you really expected to be on this that you're really surprised with?
I don't think, or I really wanted Gum Giant to be a card that they considered, but I think that's conditional on like all of the OP11 things that I've kind of formulated. So I'm not entirely. I don't really fault them for not having Gum Giant when they don't really know what OP11 is going to look like. But it really looks like it's going to be a purple Luffy as like. Purple Luffy and Blackbeard are the decks I think I'm most interested in OP10.
With EBO2 as well.
With EBO10 as like green, purple, and stuff like that. Aside from Purple Luffy and Blackbeard, are there any other like significant winners that you're interested in exploring in terms of leaders or decks?
I think that purple is just really good right now in general, and it's going to continue to be good based on what we've been seeing these last weeks being in Japan. With purple and blue Luffy being really strong and present too. I do think it gives the opportunity for some decks that just kind of make some more medium range things. This could probably age very poorly, but I'm like, maybe King is good. I want that deck to be really good. I think there's some decks that like were forced to play Moria because if you're playing against Rob Lucci, you needed to get Moria to get the value out. But without that crutch, I think that there does open some more ways to play the deck and some games. So I'm really interested. This is probably going to be one of our this is kind of echoing like when Red Purple Law was banned, right? In that. So it didn't really change though. Like OP08 wasn't really like a different meta for I think the most part, right? For
OP08, no, because we didn't have RP Law period, right? For OP08,
yeah, we did not. No, so it was just kind of OP07. Part 2, right?
Yeah, it was just all the same.
But I think this will definitely be more of a unique OP10. Like on the site, I'm gonna probably have to say like OP10.5 or whatever, or English OP10.
We gotta find a different name.
Yeah, or just something obnoxious because we also have EBO2 coming. Oh, that's a future Eggman problem. But yeah, talking about future Eggman problems though, let's talk about the card pool rotation. We do have rotation announced with the block system, right? So the first year, I think it was like set 1 to set 4. And all the cards are already pre-stamped with these, right? Which is great that they don't have to retroactively say, by the way, this card is whatever. But I think that's really interesting, and that definitely most of your contemplation for the last hour or so has been, what does this change for this card game, right?
Yeah. I am super excited about rotation. I think it's a really net positive for the longevity of a card game in general to have rotation, just so that naturally when there's a very powerful deck or very like dominant deck, even if you don't want to ban it because it's not too dominant, it still eventually goes away. I think it's always a net positive in any card game, just to kind of like self-correct in that way. Secondly, I'm not entirely sure if you've noticed this, but especially when we got to EPO2 with green purple, decks started becoming a little too consistent for my liking in this game. There's like so much redundancy, like how many searchers there are for Straw Hats at the moment, they're kind of absurd. Even decks like Blue, Purple, and OP11 have a lot more like ways to find the cards they're looking for and have a lot of like extra superfluous 2Ks they can use. And that really kind of limits what cards you can play. So having this like 10, or like, I think it's probably like 10 to 13 sets at any given time with this 4-block rotation every year is going to be a good balance, because like you still have a decent amount of cards to work with, but there isn't going to be, I'm going to obviously play Uzo Hachi in every purple deck I play.
And I think you have a lot of good points. And I think the design space for this game is pretty big, but it is minorly limited just by the numbers that they can use, right? So And yeah, searching has been, I think, pretty consistent for most decks, right?
Yep.
Most cards, just because they're lore accurate, right? If this was like a different IP specifically, where you could say, oh, we can make our own traits and kind of stuff, but you're like, Luffy has to be Straw Hats, and we've made 3 different Straw Hat searchers. I think it does help the longevity. Whenever I've proposed like the idea of like a rotation in other Bandai games previously, the biggest comment I kind of get and remember is that some people don't like the idea that, oh, I'm going to buy a card with the idea that I want to use it forever, but if I know that any card I buy has like a 2-year shelf life that aren't left, that disincentivizes me from like buying like alt arts or stuff like that. Honestly, I don't think we're super qualified for that conversation because we're just playing anyways, right?
Yeah.
We're already hooked, right? But I do think that's something that's something I brought up. I just want to talk about that real quick. Do you have any thoughts on that? Or
I can't really talk about it, to be honest. I think I would just like always buy cards regardless.
Sure. And
that was one of the costs that I've had in like every card game I've had played my entire life. Like, oh, rotation happens. Some of my cards like appreciate and depreciate accordingly.
Yeah.
I don't think, as long as you're active in the card game, I don't think it's that big of a concern, especially if you're the type of person that's pretty good at like managing the value of the cards they have. But as someone that like collects, they buy some cards from some random set and that's like all they're really interested in, it is going to be very unfortunate and very frustrating when a year down the line, the card that you opened or bought that was $30 is now worth pennies. So
but I do think that there are kind of some loopholes that they're doing, not loopholes, but ways to reincorporate old cards too. So ironically, we're talking about like, oh, Nami Searcher is really good, right? He's been previously banned here, not here, we're not in North America, on North American soil, right? And also, fun side tangent, they've printed the heck out of this one-drop Nami. You're seeing me rotate through them. There are like 10 different arts of the same card. But they mentioned it specifically in the presentation too, that if something gets reprinted in a different set, they update the number and block number for it. So, for example, this Nami has a little 2 in the bottom right, which means that even though the block 1 stuff is going to be rotated next year, Nami will still be in the set, will still be around in this card game, which I think is fair. Like, so some cards can, if you expect a card to get reprinted or reintroduced into a block, you can do the reverse where you're able to say, I'm going to buy up this card. I think it's going to come back. And if it does, then you can capitalize. We're not money people, right? We're not market people, but that is an alternative for that kind of thing. So, but I do appreciate that they will reintroduce cards, and they said that you can use the older copies of set 1 stamped, which is good. So maybe introduce a little bit of confusion because of that, but like it's the best they can do, and Pokemon I think does that pretty successfully as well, right?
100%. I also really like this niche idea that you get to use EBO2 as not only like a way to print new cards for different leaders that are coming out, but also ways to like reintroduce old cards that have rotated out. Like obviously like the Nami, but even if you just want to like have 4 Kuzan, please bring him back once he gets rotated. Put him in a PRB set and we get to play him there. Yeah,
because it's we've rotated, like reprints were already kind of good, but in the sense of like PRB, for example, a big way to reprint stuff and get people into the game for the first place. But to be able to give different arts but also reintroduce cards, I think is good. It will help the product from that. Star Decks can likely do the same thing, like we've seen with Star Deck 10 in previous ones, to reintroduce cards into a meta. And I think those are all good ways to still organically add to the card pool while letting you to do that. So if you still have like a card that you really like and you think is going to get reprinted, you can hold on to it. And it's mildly more volatile, but I think it's still an okay system. And I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like when our foundation of sets 1 through 4 are just wiped from existence, right? Yeah.
Speaking of sets 1 through 4, is OP10 the set with the most ban cards? Might be close.
So we got Ice Age, we got Great Eruption, Great Sorry, but like that's kind of like 0.5 to 0.5, right? What else?
Moby Dick.
Moby Dick's got hit by it. Newgate was banned for limited and then banned.
Marco.
Set 2 for sure. It's rivaling Fusion World set 2 is a set where adjustments needed to happen, but.
It's a new game that happens.
But it's been a lot of fun. Like I know this has been kind of an all over the place. We're just exhausted. We're jet lagged. We've been on the floor all day. and everything that encompasses. And like we're probably both tired, but I'm sure we're just going to stare at the ceiling for 30 minutes still thinking about.
I might be writing some deck lists right now.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I do appreciate you guys hanging out. Worlds was a lot of fun too. That's a whole different video, I'm sure. But this is really exciting. Let me know. You guys have probably typed paragraphs about why you love or hate this. I'd be really interested to see what your guys' reactions to it are. And yeah, the next year One Piece I think is going to be really, really exciting as we build up to not only this block rotation, but our global release and just everything in between too.
Yeah, I'm super excited to kind of see what this brings to the future of One Piece. This is a very like bright future, it seems like.
Yeah, 100%. So, but yeah, that's going to be it for us. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really do appreciate it. Make sure to check out Jonas's channel too. We'll have it linked.
And
Clyde, yes, yeah. I'm not stronging him out, but yeah, please make sure to check out that stuff. I'm pretty sure he's going to have a go over his thoughts.
100%.
Yeah, so you won't want to miss that either. And yeah, we're going to be bumming around here for like another week too. So
I'll be enjoying every single
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good bumming. So that's going to be it for us. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you all next time.